Beautiful day. I think we'll stop off here and find a nice spot to sit down and do our video session for communication. Hi, Josh from Motorcycle Adventure Therapy here with another session of Motorcycle Adventure Therapy focusing on the therapy portion of the website. This time, the focus of the therapy session that we're going to be doing today is going to be communication. So communication is such an important aspect of our lives and something that all of us use every day. I figured it would be a good topic for us to start with here at Motorcycle Adventure Therapy. So with communication, of course, you have a person that is conveying the message, okay? And then you have somebody that is receiving the message. It's important to be aware of what part you're actually playing in that communication and making sure that both types of communication are taking place, because you have to have a person that is conveying the actual message, and you have to have somebody that's receiving it. You can't be doing both be conveying a message or trying to receive a message at the same time. So we're going to talk about how you go about doing that, some of the negative forms of communication, and one of the positive forms of communication that I would recommend everybody try and practice on using when communicating with other people. So first, let's focus on the negative forms of communication. So in negative communication, you have basically two different types. You have passive communication, which is basically classified as somebody keeping all their own thoughts and feelings bottled up inside and allowing somebody else to kind of dump everything else on you or tell you what they're feeling, but not expressing how you're feeling in the actual situation. What happens when we do that is we tend to let everything build up and build up and build up inside of us until eventually we end up exploding on somebody else. Many times it's not even the person that we meant to convey these feelings to. It just is one of those situations where it just build up. That other person happened to be in front of you at the time and say the wrong thing to you, and boom, all of these feelings and thoughts that we had kept bottled up inside come out on this other person that may not have been aware of what they were getting into or what was going on. So that's termed as passive communication. Now, the next type of negative communication is called aggressive communication. Now, with aggressive communication, that's where basically we're coming across very aggressive toward that other person and dumping all of our thoughts and ideas onto that person and not giving them a chance to respond or tell us how they're feeling. And we don't really care how they're feeling. We just want to express how we're feeling to them. Now, of course, those type of communication efforts usually end up very negative. The person usually takes it as you blaming them. They usually take it as you coming across in a very aggressive manner towards them, and it usually ends up in some type of altercation at times. Usually what happens is we stop listening to one another, and basically that other person resents us for it, and it just ends up very negatively. So that would be aggressive communication. The final part of communication that I would like you guys to try and focus on practicing is what we call assertive communication. Now, assertive communication is a very positive type of communication that requires a person expressing their feelings towards someone in a respectful manner, okay? So you're not keeping everything bottled up inside of you like you would be with passive communication. And you're also doing it in a way that doesn't come across as you blaming that person or them taking it negatively, like they're the only one that, was the reason that this situation occurred, okay? Now, in addition to that, you have to be willing to receive and care about the feelings of that other person and allow them to express how they're feeling, okay? Because if you do that, you're then going to listen to what they have to say and not just have your thoughts and feelings kind of coming out onto them in a way where you can't understand where they're coming from. So that is called assertive communication. Now, assertive communication takes some practice to get down. It's not something that comes naturally to other people. The reason it's a little more difficult for other people to do is because you have to be aware of your feelings and how you're actually expressing them to that other person, which can be difficult for many of us at times, because our feelings such as anger are such an overpowering emotion that it kind of runs away with us at times and we don't realize what we're doing. So, one of the things we're going to talk about that we can focus on is being aware of how we're feeling at the time with that actual situation and how you're communicating with that other person. If you notice yourself getting angry or agitated and coming across in an aggressive manner towards that person, one of the things that I recommend people focus on is if it's turning negatively and you notice yourself getting angry and not caring what that other person is feeling, just kind of coming across with your own feelings, it's good to catch yourself and take a little walk or decompress or calm down and come back to that conversation at a later date. Because if you allow your anger and your aggression to run away with the conversation, it's not going to be received well by that other person. They're going to resent you for it, and basically they're not going to hear what you have to say anyway most of the time. Okay, so if you take a little break, take a walk, you can collect your thoughts, you can kind of get some of that aggression and anger out, along the walk, get the blood flowing, and it allows you to kind of get your thoughts and ideas together and kind of think about the situation and how you're going to come back and talk to that person at a later time. So once again, this is considered assertive communication. Now, once you've taken a walk and calmed down and thought about the situation a little more and how you can come back to it, later on you come back and you talk to that person. And when you do, a good tool to use is using I statements. Because when you use I statements, you're basically focusing on yourself and your feelings and not necessarily coming across as blaming or pointing the finger at that other person as being the total cause of what occurred. Okay? It's usually received a lot better for that person if you use I statements. And like I said, you're focusing on your feelings and how you might have, been part of the blame for the situation rather than it's all your fault. You did this, you did it this way, and that's why this happened. If you use I statements, you're taking some responsibility for what happened. You say, I felt angry because this occurred, and in this situation, it really got to me, and I just really felt angry. And, I felt angry because this occurred. Basically, you're not pointing the finger at that person, so they're not going to take it as a really negative connotation. They're going to listen to you. They're going to give you a chance to express your feelings and your thoughts to them, and they're going to have more of a chance to process what you're saying to them instead of responding in an aggressive manner and an angry manner back at you. So using I statements is a great tool in addition to taking a little break and walking away from the conversation to cool down before you come back to it if you need to. If you practice these two skills, I think you're really going to notice that your communication improves with that other person. You're able to understand what's going on in that situation, and they're going to be more receptive toward you. So then you're actually getting a two-way conversation happening. Give it a try. Try it out. It's something that takes practice. It doesn't happen overnight. It's not something that comes naturally to a lot of people. You really do have to be aware of how you're feeling and practice it in order to get better with it. So, like I said, work at it, give it a try, see if it works for you. Taking a walk before you, if you notice yourself getting angry in a situation or worked up, that might work for some people. For others, like myself, I like taking a little ride on the motorcycle, collect my thoughts, kind of just cool down. That works for me, hence motorcycle adventure therapy. So find what works for you. Everybody's going to have something different that works for them. Using I statements, that's a great tool to use, and I think you might be surprised on how well it actually works for you. It really does make a difference when you focus on it and you're aware of how many times you say you to a person when you're having a conversation rather than focusing on yourself and using I. When you do that, it really does change the tone of the conversation and the direction that it goes. Now, there's going to be some times where you're just going to hit a conversation with the person where they, no matter how you come across to them using I statements, how calm you are, they're just going to come across aggressively. And, that's going to happen at times. There may not be anything you can do, but at least you tried everything you could to have an effective communication with this person and making an assertive communication to give it the chance to be as effective as possible. So if that happens, hey, you can't communicate with everybody in a positive manner. If it's just a negative person and they're coming across that way, you just follow your first step and walk away from the conversation, take a little walk, cool down, and focus on the next thing that you have to do with your day. Okay. Um, Hopefully you guys get some use out of some of these techniques and some of these tools and can practice assertive communication rather than the two negative types we talked about, passive and aggressive communication. And hopefully you find that you get some use out of it. In the meantime, if you guys have any other topics that you'd like to have discussed here on the therapy portion of Motorcycle Adventure Therapy, please do go on the website, on the therapy tab of the website. You'll see that we have a suggestions box there where you can actually put in suggestions, send us an email, tell us some topics. We keep everything confidential. If you want to put your email information for us to recontact you, we'll be happy to do so. If you want to keep it confidential, you can do that too. It's totally up to you. So please do, tell us your ideas and what you'd like to see as a topic on the therapy portion of Motorcycle Adventure Therapy. This is Josh from Motorcycle Adventure Therapy saying, see you on the next adventure.